So your tenant's lease is coming up for renewal and you want them to sign another year lease term, but they don't want to do that. They want to go on a month-to-month lease. Do you do it? In this video, you'll find out some of the disadvantages of letting your tenant go on a month-to-month basis, and if they do have to go on a month-to-month, what can you do to protect yourself? For the best landlord tips and tricks, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified right away when we post new videos each and every Wednesday. Did you know that allowing a tenant to go month to month could cost you money? So let's say your tenant's lease is up for renewal and they say, you know, can we just go month to month? We don't know what our plans are. We don't want to commit to a year lease. And so you think about it and you're thinking, well, why not? They've been good tenants. I'll just give them a break. We can just go month to month. What's the harm? So you need to think twice about that, because letting your tenant go month to month might be a little bit more of a bigger deal than you think. By the end of this video, you'll know some of the pros and a lot of the cons of letting the tenant go month to month and what you can do to make sure you're covered. Hi there, my name is Sue Ritchie. I'm the co-founder and the broker of Ritchie Property Management. We're a residential property management firm and a real estate brokerage in the Northern Virginia area. So first, let's talk about 3 disadvantages of month-to-month leases. First of all, with a month-to-month lease, you can't guarantee the rental cycle. And what I mean by rental cycle is ideally you want to stay in a spring, summer rental cycle. So most leases are about a year. So if you're anywhere from, let's say, March into July, August, if you just do a year lease from March to March, April to April, that's a great rental cycle. You have a lot more people that are active, looking, they're making changes. In the summer, people leave when the kids are out of school, different kinds of jobs, military, foreign service. They have certain times of year where they leave. Most of that happens in the spring and summer. So you have a huge pool of potential tenants at that time of year as opposed to other times. So having a set lease term during that cycle is ideal. Month to month doesn't guarantee that at all, and it could end up that you have a vacancy or your tenant leaves at a bad time of year. Also, a month-to-month lease could mean a lower rental rate. Now, we did a video recently about clauses that you can put into your leases about if you have to have a month-to-month and to have an increase in your rent, so you could get more money. But if your tenant goes month-to-month and you keep the rent, let's say you keep it the same, and they end up leaving in November or December, now you're at a horrible time of year to rent. I mean, you may get a tenant, but you have less people looking. And if the property is sitting vacant for a while, you may have to reduce your price well below the market just to get someone in there paying rent. And then you're locked into that rate for another year. So that's a huge disadvantage because you might end up with a lower than market rental rate. And the third disadvantage is just the plain uncertainty. With a month-to-month, let's say your tenant has to give you 30 or 60-day notice when they want to leave, you have no idea and you can't really do any planning. With a year lease, you can plan on, let's say, some improvements in the property. You know you're going to be getting rent for that full year. You can plan other things. You can just budget to know you're going to have that income. On a month-to-month, it could stop anytime with 30 days or 60 days notice. So the uncertainty is another disadvantage of a month-to-month lease. Now, sometimes a longer-term lease just isn't going to work at all because of the tenant situation, and maybe you just agree, okay, we're going to do a month-to-month lease, but there are still a few things that you can put into a month-to-month agreement to protect yourself. One, you want to put a clause in there that increases the rent at a premium if the tenant goes month to month. So let's say your rent is $2,000 a month during the normal lease period. And you just tell the tenant, okay, I'll allow you to go month to month and we'll have a 10% increase in the rent. So now the rent is $2,200 a month. If they're okay with that, then at least you've got a little bit of a premium and you're taking on more risk, but you're getting a little bit more money. Another clause you want to add if you allow your tenant to go month to month is add some language in there that says that they cannot break the lease during the winter months. We have this in our lease agreements. So even if if the owner is okay with it, we still do not allow them to leave in the winter months of November, December, January. Because in our area, in the Washington, D.C. area, we do get snow, we get bad weather, and that's a really bad time of year to re-rent the property. So we do have that language in there, and that's something else you might want to consider. And lastly, you want to make sure you have enough reserves. If you're a landlord, that should just be a given. You need to always have reserves. But in particular, if you have a month-to-month lease, just like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty as to when they'll end. And if it isn't a great time of year, you might have a vacancy for a while. So you need to make sure you have plenty of reserves in the event the home sits vacant longer than it might have at another time of year. If you have had any pros or cons with month-to-month leases that you've used with any of your tenants, please put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear anything that's worked or not worked. But are there advantages to a month-to-month lease? There are a few, and it really depends on your market and your tenant pool. So let's talk about a couple of those. So if your tenant pool is questionable, or if you don't have a lot of variability in your market, then a month-to-month lease might not be that bad. Why? Well, a few reasons. One, you're not locked into a long-term, so you can kick out a tenant really quickly. So if a tenant is bad, they don't pay, you're not locked into them for a year. So you can give them 30 or 60-day notice and get rid of them. Also, if there are terms that you need to change, you can change those quickly. You can change them whenever you need to. So again, you're not locked into a one-year lease. And lastly, you can get rid of bad tenants fast. So now that you know some of the disadvantages and a few advantages of a month-to-month lease, you have to decide what makes sense for you and use those strategies in your lease. If this video was helpful and you liked it, please let us know by hitting the like button below and subscribing to our channel and sharing this video with other landlords who could use this sort of information. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.